So there are men who will try and conform to what you say you desire in a man or what you desire in a relationship and pretend to be wanting to give you that, but in actuality, they're just trying to say what they gotta say to get in the pants and dip.
I may be young, but I'm ready to give you all my love.
Hi you all, welcome back to my channel. It's Michelle Amoré. So today I have a new video for you guys, but before I get into that, I wanted to go ahead and say a huge thank you to all my new subscribers. So I was recently requested to make a video on advice that I have for women who are interested in dating with a more marriage-minded focus and just how to navigate the dating scene with that mindset. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my advice and my personal experience, and hopefully you can take a thing or two and apply it in your own dating life. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the element of sacrifice that I think is important for marriage-minded women to be just in tune with. So Michelle Obama, one of my personal favorite people in the entire world, once said in an interview basically something along the lines that you can have it all, but you can't have it at the same time. And I think that's so important to really deep and understand, especially in just the society we live in today and just how successful women are becoming. We have the career going on. We want families, we want kids, we want the marriage. And it's really great to have all these desires, but I think it's also important to realize that there's going to be a certain level of sacrifice that's going to occur throughout the period of your life where you're just going to have to give in to certain things so that you can make way for others. So in regards to your career and your education and things that you're pursuing, I think it's important to understand and become more comfortable with that idea of sacrifice that might have to take place when you are a marriage-minded woman and you do prioritize marriage. And so I can speak for myself. If you've watched my previous videos, I was teaching abroad in Spain at one point. And when I saw how the progression of my relationship was going and just how serious, more serious it was becoming, and realized that it was something that I needed to give time and attention to, I made the decision to move back to the United States to really be present and give our relationship the kind of focus and commitment it needed. And I can also speak on another situation. I'm currently in the process of applying to law schools. I've already heard back from 2 law schools, and thank God they were acceptances, but now starting to understand and think about, well, long distance, is that going to be a factor, or how am I going to navigate 3 years of law school when I know I want to start a family at some point? So all of these things are just different aspects and different questions that I myself have to consider personally. But as a marriage-minded woman, when you know this is something that you prioritize and something that you want, you really do realize that there's going to be a certain level of sacrifice that's going to have to take place, because yes, you can have it all, but not necessarily at the same time. Now, my second tip is to definitely lead with your intentions as you're dating. I don't recommend on the first day coming out being like, look, I'm trying to get married in the next year, pop out some kids, you in or you not. Definitely not. It's just not a feminine way to navigate the dating space. Now, a man and an alpha man is gonna tell you what it is from the jump. He gonna tell you, look, I'm trying to date seriously, I have the intentions of being married, X, Y, and Z. So you'll know. But if things are kind of moving a bit slowly, I'd recommend that on the second date, start by asking the question, hey, so what are you looking for in a relationship, or where do you see yourself relationship-wise in the next however such years that you want to ask? And I recommend trying to get that information from that man and have him offer it first. Because one thing that it's important to be aware of and be cautious of are men who are very manipulative and will take advantage of your desire for marriage and children and a real relationship. So there are men who will try and conform to what you say you desire in a man or what you desire in a relationship and pretend to be wanting to give you that, but in actuality they're just trying to say what they got to say to get in the pants and dip. And so you want to avoid that situation as much as possible. Even when I was dating my man, he asked me, so what are you looking for in a man? And I didn't even answer the question. I was very dismissive with it. I was just, oh, you know, I wasn't direct. I was not going to sit there and tell him the recipe for winning my heart, because at the end of the day, you want to see what that that man is naturally and genuinely coming with. So in regards to intentionally dating and trying to date for the intentions of marriage, try and get that information from that man as soon as possible. That way you can know if this is a situation you want to be in or not. Now, once the discussion of like marriage and what you guys are looking for in a relationship comes up, I think the next thing that's very important and very critical to understand and see where your partner lies is in regards to the type of partnership they want. If you're a more traditional minded woman who wants a man who has a provider mindset, that's important to you. You don't want to be with a man who believes in doing the whole 50-50 thing or whatever the case may be. And so I think it's important early on, before feelings and emotions start getting intertwined, to go ahead and lay that out. I think the second date when my man asked to be exclusive, we even talked on that date, like, what are your expectations for a relationship? Financially, what does that look like for you? And I told him out front, straight, I have the desire to be a stay-at-home mother at some point in my life. Yes, I'm going to law school. Yes, I want to work in my career for a little bit, but I don't want to feel as if the burden of the household in terms of finances is on me. I want to have the opportunity to be able to stay at home and be a housewife and take care of my children in the household. That's what I want. And so I laid that out for him. I even went as far as saying, look, it'd even be great if I could be a trophy wife. So literally go ahead and lead with those intentions, especially when you're early in dating. This is not the time to be fearful of scaring a man off. Like, you also want to be in a partnership where you both equally satisfy each other's needs and desires. So that is the time to scare him off if this is not somebody who's marriage minded and not someone who wants the type of relationship structure that you want. Now, my next tip is in regards to therapy and self-healing. I think it is so important, especially as a woman, to ensure that you get the help and the assistance that you need to help heal from past traumas and different issues that you have in regards to heartbreak and dealings with men who just were not up to par. That kind of stuff can really wear on you and can really set you up to be in a position where you're bringing unnecessary baggage into the next relationship. Your current man should not be having to pay for the sins of the previous man. And that's just really it. And a lot of times, men who are of a certain caliber are not even trying to put up with that. So you really do have to come in a position where you're healthy and you're at your best self so that you can really make the most of your dating experience and be able to give yourself fully to your next partner. Even when I talk with my man, he says how it's so funny when I tell him about how I was in my men ain't ish phase and I hate all men and y'all all suck. He was like, thank God I did not meet you then, because I would have looked the other way and kept it moving. No matter how great of a woman you are and how well you can do X, Y, and Z. That's really important, because when you carry around that kind of hurt, it's so noticeable. Like, men can honestly smell that from miles and miles away, and nobody wants that kind of spirit and that kind of aura around them. So honestly, for your benefit and for the benefit of your future partner, really do the inner work and the inner healing to get the work done so that you can be at your best position possible to really give and receive love. Now, my next tip is in regards to casual sex. If you are a marriage-minded woman who wants a serious relationship, leave that casual sex nonsense at the door. That stuff is so detrimental and can honestly wear and tear you down so much. And I will speak personally, because this is honestly a topic that I'm really passionate about too. When I was in my phase of hating men, I was like, well, if men can be out here doing X, Y, and Z and have no emotions and, you know, just do it for the sake of doing it, I'm gonna do it too and get back at them. And it's just such a stupid game to play, because at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself. We can't necessarily navigate the dating scene the way men navigate. Men and women, we're just different, you know? We're just different. And I think for a lot of women, like, sex evokes a certain level of attachment and intimacy, and that can be really disastrous, especially if you're having that kind of attachment to men who are just not the type of men you need around you. So I think it's so important to really guard your heart. I love the scripture that says, guard your heart, because everything you do flows from it. And it's just so important to really recognize the level that sex and like intimacy has in regards to really permeating your heart and really changing and altering you. You really don't want that. So I'm not going to give advice as to when I feel like people should be having sex with their partner or whoever they're dating, because that's your business. But I will say, as a woman who's marriage minded, definitely do not give that up. when there's no level of commitment and no element of exclusivity between you and your partner, because that's just doing way too much way too soon. Now, my next point is in regards to just the characteristics of being a wife. I think it's so important, if you desire to be a wife, you desire marriage, you desire motherhood, what are you doing to really develop the skills necessary to be a good wife, to take care of a home, to take care of children? So on this point, if your skills in regards to cooking or cleaning are kind of rusty, I think it's important to really work on yourself and really try and develop and hone in on those skills. I'll say for myself, I love cooking. It's something that I just really enjoy doing. I didn't even get into cooking for a long time because I grew up in a household where my parents were like, come in the kitchen, come learn how to cook, because you got to learn how to cook for your husband. And back then, with the mindset I had, I was like, that is such a sexist and misogynistic thing to say. Why can't he cook for himself, and yada 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 yada. But with the kind of woman I am now, we thank God for growth. I enjoy it. I enjoy it for myself, and it's also a way that I choose to express love to other people. So I think it's definitely a skill, if you as a woman don't necessarily have all together, to really work on learning. Learning how to cook is so free and so easy. YouTube has millions upon millions of different recipes for you to learn how to make. So start practicing, practice on your family, have them be your guinea pigs and stuff, but really hone in on those skills because it's really important. Now, my next tip is in regards to tying up loose ends with previous relationships and previous partners and stuff. When you're dating, I think it's important to really do your best to completely close off chapters. If something ended with an ex, let that end permanently. Let that door stand there. Like I said in my previous video, when my man and I went exclusive, I completely removed every person from my past and just cut off the means of communication between us, because once you're moving on and you're trying to really suss out and see if this is a partner for you to really be with, it's just so disastrous to keep people in the background who can pop up every now and then, because it just brings a lot of confusion. It's just not something you need. So I really do recommend that. Now, my next tip for the marriage-minded woman is to really realize and really try to analyze, what is it that you look for in a man and what is it that's important to you? So I know a lot of people sometimes have a list of what they want in a man and a spouse. I'm kind of weird. I didn't have a list of what I wanted. I basically had a running list of qualities and characteristics I knew I did not want. Those were basically formed by experience. So as I was dating men over a course of like a couple of years, every bad encounter and characteristic and quality that I found in the men that I dated, I put it there. I said, I don't want this. I don't want that. I need this, that kind of stuff. So my list was really based off of experience and like what I knew concretely that I could not entertain and I could not deal with. And I think it's important to really have that, because when I got to a place where I was trying to figure out like, okay, like, is this really a relationship for me? I pulled out that list, and I still remember the night that I shared that with my now fiance. And as I was reading the list, and it was a long list, y'all. It was a super long list, but my man was hitting all, if not most of it. So I think it's so important to just date intentionally and know what you're looking for. And you know, I'm a really big advocate for just dating. Get out there, date, see what you want, see what you don't want, but at the same time, guard and protect your heart. But I really am grateful for the experiences that I had in the past, especially the experiences that weren't so positive, because it really helped me to hone in on the qualities that I knew I needed for myself and what I really didn't want. And I will also say, if you have a desire for like the bad boy type or the man who everybody wants and the super fly X, Y, and Z, maybe assess why you have that desire. I remember when I was making my vision board for like this period of my life and what I wanted, I had a little quote where it was like, Lord, remove any appetite for things that do not serve me or do not bring me closer to what you have destined for me. And I think that was such an important point for me to be praying on, because sometimes we desire things that aren't even healthy for us. We desire things that aren't even good for us, like candy, sweets, desserts. And so I think it's so important to really pray and be intentional about shifting your appetite. Ask God or ask whoever you believe in to really shift and curb your appetite for what is necessary for you and what's really going to bring you happiness and fulfillment. Because I will say, when I was at the point in my life where I was very broken and hurting and stuff and attracting really bad men, I really don't think I would be able to even have the space in my heart to welcome the kind of love my now fiance brings to me, or he would even been my type. And that's so sick now that I think about it, because when you're not healthy, you just don't even have the appetite for things that are healthy. So really work on yourself, because it's one thing to pray to God for a husband, to pray to God for the kind of man that you desire, but it's another thing to be in a position where you're even able to welcome in that blessing and not self-sabotage it. Now, my next tip is to unlearn unhealthy relationship habits. Unfortunately, some of us can testify to being raised in homes where you didn't see a healthy dynamic between a man and a woman. Maybe you grew up in a household where your parents were divorced, or your parents were happily married on the outside, but inside it was a disaster zone. So I think it's really important to figure out what are different habits that you've seen and that have become routine to you, and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're repeating that. I think therapy does a good job in helping you to identify those issues and to unlearn those unhealthy habits. Now, to also help on that point, I think it's so important to seek positive examples of healthy relationships and healthy marriage habits. And that's actually a phase in life where I'm currently at right now. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up in a household where I saw a healthy family dynamic. And so that's something that I'm currently seeking in terms of role models as I try to navigate this new season of marriage and a committed relationship. And I will even say, even as I was single and before I even met my man, I would go to marriage seminars at my church to listen to married couples talk about their relationship and talk about things they've learned throughout their course of their journey of marriage. So really be intentional about going out and seeking such knowledge. Read books, listen to different people speak off of their own experiences. Obviously, remain discernful. It's not everything you hear that you take, but be active in trying to get that information, because just because you came from an unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy marriage doesn't mean that an unhealthy marriage has to come out of you. You can be that person that changes the trajectory for your own lineage. Now, next, watch who you take relationship advice from. I think that is so important. My personal boundary is that I choose not to take advice in regards to marriage and committed relationships from women who unfortunately have been scorned by love, been scorned by relationships, and so speak from a place of bitterness and hate. That's just one thing I choose not to do and allow to have access to me and access to my mind in regards to dating and relationships. So really suss out the sources and ensure that they're not speaking from a place of bitterness and hate. Now, my next tip is in regards to reputation. As a marriage-minded woman who's dating, you want to be very cautious of who you allow yourself to be associated with. I mean, the truth of the matter is, when you're dating and when you're in a serious relationship too, your relationship past matters to an extent. Men really do care about having pride in who they're associated with and who their woman is. No one wants to be the man who wifed up the neighborhood, whatever the case may be. That's just the truth of the matter. So I think it's really important as a woman who's marriage-minded and wants to be married to a man of a certain caliber that you be very mindful and cautious of the kind of man you entertain, the kind of men you date. And my personal tip in regards to this area is to be cautious of how and who you post men online. I personally had a rule that I was just not going to post any man I was dating unless he was a man that put a ring on my finger. It was just a personal requirement for me. I didn't want to give any man the luxury or the privilege of being associated with me if he wasn't the man that was going to be my husband, because I didn't want to go through the awkwardness of having to take down pictures and explain to people that we're not together and stuff. So I preferred remaining very private about how I dated and who I dated, unless it was somebody who was seriously dating me and made that commitment to me. So be very cautious of the kind of reputation you build for yourself, because that's a really important factor that men who are marriage-minded as well look into. And another aspect of this is be cautious and be careful of the kind of women that you keep around you as well and that you call close friends, because at the end of the day, it still matters. Men look at all these different factors to assess whether or not this is really the kind of woman you're gonna put in the wife category or the woman you're gonna put in the let's hit it and quit it type category. So yeah, it matters. And so that concludes my video. I hope you guys found this video very helpful. If you have any questions or any suggestions on other dating-like videos or just any topics you'd want me to make videos on, please go ahead and leave those down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for being here, and once again, welcome to my new subscribers, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
You a bad girl and your friends bad too. Oh, you got the swag, saucy drippin' swag, do. You a bad girl and your friends bad too. Oh.